Are you kidding?
Well, I'm not done yet.
Dwight, this fits in the palm of my hand. You haven't blown them up enough. Why have you chosen brown and gray balloons?
They match the carpet.
What is that? It is your birthday period.
It's a statement of fact.
Not even an exclamation point?
This is more professional. It's not like she discovered a cure for cancer.
Yeah, it's someone's birthday.
Oh, and I've been muted this whole time. So
Well done.
You just heard Jason Smith say it's his birthday. So let me back up. So we were supposed to have our normal co-host on the program, Jerry LeBlanc. Jerry messages me around, I don't even know the exact time, but it was sometime around maybe 8:30ish, 8:40ish, 8:30, and indicated he was running behind closer to 9:30, 10. So he might join us on the program. His box is there if he shows up, and we'll fix it and get him on. But it's his birthday, so I assume he's doing something fun. And I apparently can't spell birthday because the thumbnail was screwed up, so I'll fix that in post. But Jason Smith, thanks for jumping on with 20 minutes warning to
Yeah, of course.
to do this podcast. So we're gonna get into the action, starting with our recaps. We're gonna obviously do our recaps of.
Do we have to?
Trust me, dude. I feel the same way because I'm no longer undefeated, as we'll find out, and it is complete and total horseshit that James won this week. It is.
My least favorite part is the recaps because my team has lost and I hate it. And then my favorite part is the projections because my team is good on paper and everyone's like, yeah, Jason's team is going to win. And then I get my hopes up and then they're crushed a week after.
It's like a double whammy. So let's go right into the prediction or the recaps of week 5. This is bullshit. James beats me by less than a point. And the infuriating part is he benched Bijan. And we all knew this from the chat. This was talked about ad nauseum in the chat. He benched Bijan for Tyler Algier, even though Bijan was healthy, playing. Left, it could have been a lot worse, left 5.2 points on his bench. And I go into Monday night with a pretty significant advantage. Not the game over, but like a pretty significant advantage to the point where Zach, being the ass that he is, says, "Oh, all the games are over." I'm like, no, they're not. Like, you know, but Kelsey's would need to have his season high and Olave would need to have his season low. And wouldn't you know, that's what happens. Ugh, infuriating.
I mean, I feel zero sympathy for you.
Thanks.
I mean, it's not like Bijan, like, he made some grave mistake benching Bijan. Like, he didn't do much. I don't know if he did that, like, he meant to do that for the game, or
There's no
he was
way.
just busy. I assume he was just busy.
Yeah, that's obviously what happened.
I mean, I think Bijan was questionable at one point in the week.
Right.
It was like, so I don't think he did it, you know, on purpose.
No, he definitely didn't do it. If he did it on purpose, then there are other problems that James needs to address. Like, but the fact that he benches Bijan, which is objectively a stupid decision, and somehow pulls out a win against my then undefeated squad, it just grinds my gears. Overall, I'm not that upset. Like I was like, I think like 4th-ish in scoring or something like that. Like I was above average in scoring, but not like dominant. Like, you know, 138 you expect to win, but it is what it is. Fantasy's fantasy. The bigger concerns I have are, once again, my injury issues. One thing that I just want to point out, and I don't know if anyone... Window was, I guess, the only person who was like aware of this, or at least told me after the fact he was aware of this. I had Hollywood Brown on my roster for like 2 weeks when the man was on IR, and like sources say he's done for the year, or likely done for the year. And I just sat him on my bench not knowing that he was gone. So waste of a spot. You know, I think I used it to get Trey Sermon, who ended up being okay. But it's like, my team is just banged up. Now Derek Carr, Jonathan Taylor's still questionable. Devontae Smith coming back from concussion. Derek Carr still hurt.
Your team is banged up.
All right. So everyone's got their own injury issues, but my team...
You bitch so much, but like you are affected the least by all of these things.
No. So let me back up. All I was saying was that, like,
The only injured person on your team is the Dolphins defense because they don't have a roster.
not true. Jonathan Taylor was out this past week due to his high ankle sprain. Devontae Smith is concussed, and it was on bye, but it was out. It came out the week before that. Derek Carr got injured at the end of the game and was getting testing on his oblique. I don't know where that's at. And by the way, my bench is also contains Jonathan Brooks, who is still out and hasn't been coming back in. TJ Hawkinson,
You knew that though.
Who was out? I know some of
You
these
knew
are already,
that.
I know. I have a thin bench because I had drafted a few players who were injured and coming back at about this point in the season. But I'm saying that's why I have less room for injuries, and it's starting to catch up to me. Is all I was saying. I'm happy with how my team performed. Lamar is, and this is going to be the kiss of death by saying it, but every week that goes by, I am more and more happy that I took him at 1 overall. I got a lot of flack for it, and I'm starting to feel better about it with each passing week.
Yeah, you're a genius, Sean.
The last thing I'll say is, I know how you feel. I'm sorry. Looking at James's roster, when I don't expect, like, sure, Mike Evans 20 points, no problem. But, like, Brian Thomas Jr. having 20, Darnell Mooney continuing to put up, like, 27 points a week, where does this come from?
I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. has been having himself a year. Darnell Mooney,
He's having himself a year, too. Like, apparently all he needed to do was go to Atlanta where he was, like, he can shine. Like, I drafted him one year, he didn't do anything. Now he's...
I mean, he was on the Bears. I don't know.
Yeah, Bears wide receivers aren't great.
He was on the Bears. Who knows if
So...
he was good or not?
James gets a much-needed win to go to 3-2, and I'm done talking about this. We're moving on.
Did I lose you, Sean?
Hello?
Sean?
You're frozen. I can hear you. Technical difficulties. What else is going on in this birthday podcast for Jerry? All right, we'll see if we can't get Jason back on the call. While we wait for Jason to join us, and if you're in the chat, let me know. It says connecting. There we go. You there, buddy?
Yeah.
Had some Zoom issues. Let's see if we can't fix this.
It looks like you're. I had the YouTube up. It froze on me sucking on my popsicle. So neat.
All right, there we go. So we're on to Scotty and Jerry. Narrow loss for the birthday boy. To drop him to 1-4. This was one of those Thunderdome matchups we talked about last week, where the loser drops to 1-4, the winner's back in kind of the thick of things at 2-3. And really, it was just a couple people on Scotty's roster carrying him, specifically Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Jamar Chase did some work. Him and Burrow had themselves a day.
Yeah, I mean the Bengals game, and Burrow having the game of his life, really inflated this matchup more than it otherwise would have been, because it added not only the 36.3 from Chase, but also the 24.8 from Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty is now the second highest scoring team in the league at 2-3.
Who's the highest?
I'm not even gonna answer that.
It's me.
Yeah, I mean, a massive game from Jamar Chase gives Scotty the win. I mean, both teams did pretty well. So
Let me pose a hypo for you.
yeah, go for it.
There are reports that Christian McCaffrey may be back as early as week 7.
Okay.
Let's even do one better. Let's assume Christian McCaffrey. Are the 49ers on bye this week? They might be on bye this week. Let me find out. There doesn't say. Hold on. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Let's try this again. Yeah, they're on. No, they are playing. All right, McCaffrey's still on IR. Let's say he does come back, not this week, but next week, right? Does Jerry have a path back?
I mean, sure. If McCaffrey puts up 25 a week, like, he was supposed to do, Garrett Wilson, he does what he was supposed to do.
But that's just it. It's with you're adding more ifs now. Like
and Cooper Kupp comes back. Like, the pieces are there, right? He's just got to get him on the board. Brock Purdy is solid. Zach Moss has been good. Kareem Hunt might be, really good. Garrett Wilson could be good. He gets Cooper Kupp back. Gets Christian McCaffrey back. He's in a position to compete, with anybody, I think. It's just getting the pieces on the board.
I don't necessarily disagree that there is a path back, but my devil's advocate argument here is Kareem Hunt is doing what Pacheco really would be doing. Like there's not a huge drop off from where Pacheco was to where Hunt was last week, right? So there's not that much to gain from that. Cooper Kupp and Christian McCaffrey obviously would be a huge boost to his team. And Jerry made a point during the week to mention, and it's true, he would have won had he started Trevor Lawrence instead of Aaron Rodgers, or Brock Purdy for that matter. If he starts Trevor Lawrence, he wins this week. But, I just
And
don't...
if his grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. What Jerry says all the time.
But I just don't know that Jerry's team... One of the things I'm starting to see about Jerry's team is... Okay, so his ideal lineup, he would... I'm assuming Xavier Legette probably comes off the board. Maybe Keenan Allen, or T. Higgins comes off the board. And you start... And you sub in Pacheco for Hunt, and that's your team. Is that enough?
I mean, forgetting Cooper Kupp and Christian McCaffrey.
The other thing, again, the other part of the equation is he's in a big hole because of how banged up his team has been.
There's 4-1-4 teams. He's only a few games back.
He's back from the wild card a significant amount.
He's 60 points behind me. We're the same record. There's a lot of football left to play. I don't think it's insurmountable. I mean, Cooper Kupp was the Triple Crown winner, and he was looking studly already to start the season. Like, if he gets the pieces
Puka
back,
injured.
When Puka was on the field, Cooper Kupp was still getting targets at the end of last year and beginning of this year. I'm not worried about Cooper Kupp. He might not be the wide receiver 1, but on any given week, he could easily finish top 5. Christian McCaffrey can finish top 5. I mean, there aren't a lot of weapons left in Kansas City. Kareem Hunt's going to get his. Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers runs that team now, so who knows?
Quite literally runs that team after the firing of Robert Saleh.
He's got the elite Broncos defense and PS2, so they could put up 50 a week. I don't know.
I can't believe that the reports are that Saleh was escorted out of the building. How messed up is that?
I heard he didn't know until he got there.
Yeah, no, they didn't tell him anything. He shows up to work ready to fire Nathaniel Hackett, as any sane person would do. And they're like, nope, you need to leave. Security!
I'm sorry, sir. This is so Wendy's.
Oh, man. All right,
moving on.
Let's go to your matchup with Alex. What happened,
my
buddy?
matchup is next.
It is.
Well, what had happened is he fucking boomed me. I don't know what you want. DJ Moore, 25, Joe Burrow, 34, up and down the roster. Everyone except fucking who was supposed to be the number 2 running back does, just
He
booms
even had
me.
some solid performances on his bench. And speaking of which, Caleb Williams and Mondre had good performances for you sitting on the bench, but it's not like your quarterbacks underperformed or your running backs really underperformed.
I mean, I was hurting this week. You know, I had 2 starters on bye, and I had 3 starters who were hurt and couldn't play.
Who were the
That
starters who were hurt?
Singletary was out, Evan Ingram out, Joe Mixon out.
But that's not. I mean, like, I'm sorry. The drop off from Evan Ingram to Muth is not significant. Singletary and Mixon's a little bit better, but
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I feel that the team, and they still performed. Um, just the weather was garbage in Pittsburgh, so there was nothing for CD to get.
And some guy was on
Deshaun
bye.
Watson was busy groping people on the sidelines to throw the ball to Amari Cooper against the worst pass defense in the league.
Since we're talking about that game, did you see that there was the play where Deshaun Watson walked off the field when Stefanski would go for it on 4th down?
Oh yeah.
Like, if you're a Browns fan, you've got to just be hating your life right now.
I remember seeing some tailgates back when Deshaun Watson first signed, and people at the tailgates, they had like a massage table set up. So I don't want to stereotype all Browns fans,
No,
but
there's good apples.
there's
and
a
bad apples
non-zero
amongst
amount
fans.
that would
Yeah, it was
put
coming
Deshaun
too.
Watson on their fantasy football team. I would never do that.
Oh, really?
So I don't think anyone in this league would. I don't think he's on a team right now. So we're all upstanding members of society.
Who drafted him?
I don't know.
You don't know? Let's see.
Yeah, maybe we don't have to look.
Oh, we don't have to look?
It's not important.
Oh, it's not important.
Yeah, I mean this.
I'm pretty sure that one of the people who's in this pod right now may have drafted him, and I don't remember doing it.
Was it Jerry?
I don't think he's here yet.
So it was Jerry. Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, Alex had a great week, though. Like you said, Burrow benefited from that shootout in Cincinnati against Baltimore.
I mean, with people on buys, 128 should get you a win, right? Everyone did really well this week.
You're
Points
preaching
were
to the
way
choir.
up across the board.
Preaching
I mean,
to
the
choir.
average was probably like 125 this week.
Yeah.
Unless your window, who beat me, because fantasy football is.
Yeah, this was I don't think your team certainly is less dead than Jerry's.
Is it good on paper?
It is good on paper. But Alex needed this win the most, perhaps, just because I don't know. I thought
Fucking
there was
Homer.
when no, listen. When Tua went down, I was genuinely concerned that Alex's team came out of the gate stinking. I was genuinely concerned he was Sacco. He was like it looked like a Sacco roster. And all of a sudden now, whenever you can put up 150 in a week, even with inflated scoring, like you're breathing a little easier. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all about that matchup. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No, Jaden Daniels is him, so that's neat.
That is neat for you.
Yeah.
Going on to matchup number 4, Zach ended up beating McMillan. Shocker.
With Saquon on bye and Alvin Kamara staying single digits.
No, because we all knew that like Tucker Kraft was going to put up 22 and Drake Leonard was going to have 27.
22 off of like 5 targets.
Yeah. And of course, Zay Flowers, Rashid Shaheed are going to put up, 15 and 16 respectively. Daniel Jones is going to put up 22 because that's what Danny Dimes does. Like, honestly, Tyreek is like a swing and a miss of a number 2 overall pick so far with Tua out. That might turn around when Tua comes back. I think he's out for 2 more weeks if I remember correctly. But Zach's team is just going to be in the playoffs. It just is. Right? Like, there's no way he misses the playoffs.
I mean, he has never missed the playoffs.
Ever.
He's never missed the semis. I think he always reminds everyone.
And he drafted a kicker.
I don't. It's better to be lucky than good. Maybe Zach is the greatest fantasy football player of all time. I don't know. I don't think so.
Empirically speaking, in our league, I think he's damn close. I don't know if it's him or Z-Back, but it's like in the historical archives of the league and overall records, he's up there. I think he has the lead for the towards the top of records for regular overall regular season and playoffs.
He's riding his typical, second least in points against.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This year.
Meanwhile, Jason McMillan,
Funny enough, Brad's opponents are averaging less than 100 against him. Less than 100.
Wow.
I am 170 more points against than Brad.
All right.
I'm not even the worst. McMillan's the worst. McMillan is 180 points more through 5 weeks.
McMillan said in the chat he's running the slow game. No, what I think is interesting about this matchup is these two had a trade the week, this past week. It was, if I remember correctly, Zach sent Marvin Harrison and who was it? It was Marvin Harrison and Justin Herbert, who was on bye, for Jalen Hurts and Puka. And McMillan made that trade presumably to try to get a little boost this week because the only player who Hurts was on bye, so he wouldn't have to worry about him. Puka is still on IR. The only player who was playing from the trade was Marvin Harrison, who had just had a huge week and puts up 4.6 against Zach.
I mean, looking at this, if you take out Kirk Cousins' 35-point performance, if he has anything normal, this team is not. It's really lacking in some pieces. Looking at it,
that's what
Rashad White is no longer the starter realistically. Juwan Jennings had one massive game, but hasn't done anything since. And
it's not. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying it's not all there's a couple things that are Neighbors was injured right from the concussion, so Neighbors was one of his star pieces.
True. Pittman's out now too.
I was about to say, Nuke was on bye. Cooks is out on I think IR. Chubb is still injured but coming back. But I don't know that McMillan. There's a lot of depth out there for him.
I mean there isn't. It's just that's he's gonna have a rough couple weeks. I think.
I agree.
And this also, I'm really sorry that the end of my sentence interrupted the beginning of yours.
Sorry. I apologize. I just let me pose the same hypothetical to you really quick. With McMillan, do you see a way back for him?
So I would be more likely to say that Jerry would make the playoffs over McMillan.
I think I agree with you.
I just Neighbors is going to come back, but teams are going to start doubling him because it's the Giants. He's got 2 rookie wide receivers his best running back is Aaron Jones. I
Who-
just think there's a lot of. I mean, I guess Swift.
Didn't Aaron
Maybe,
Jones
but,
get injured this past week too?
uh, yeah, questionable. I don't know. I just he can field the roster, but I don't think it's a roster you want to field. And going through buys, it's going to be really thin.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about his team coming up. Um, so
Well, let's get to the last matchup: Window versus Brad.
I mean,
Window had a really bad week.
Sam Darnold is no longer the MVP favorite.
His team's 5-0 still though, and he beat his old team. How satisfying must that have been for Sam Darnold? Even though you had a stinker of a game, that your team wins against the team that like could have killed your career.
Yeah, I mean, good for him.
Yeah.
So it's not seeing ghosts anymore, so that's good.
No. Scotty posed an interesting question: is Brad the luck box now?
Brad didn't draft a kicker, so no.
No, Brad's team also was like had performances across the board. He got, to be fair, 126 might not have been enough to beat a lot of teams this week, but he also had Devon Achane go out with a concussion. And I don't think it's going to hurt him necessarily much because he's still got Mostert, who in his first game back put up double digits. But across the board, he had double digits otherwise, except for his defense, right? The one concern I would have with Brad, and I don't know how many people caught this, Josh Allen was concussed this week. They didn't announce it.
I saw that he was probably concussed last week.
Well, yeah. So this past week, he literally did the same thing Tua did with the kind of like the fencing response a little bit. Like you could see it in the hand, like unnatural movements as he's on the ground.
I'm glad you say it because I wasn't going to be the one to say he had a Tua. So
No. As a Dolphins fan and as someone who doesn't want any football player to ever be concussed, I wish they'd all wear Guardian helmets. But I've come to learn the signs. And the other giveaway that he was concussed was a still frame that showed him being handed, or at least offered, smelling salts. There is no conceivable justification for you being offered smelling salts aside from the fact that you just had head trauma and you were unconscious.
So you're talking about when he hit the ground in week 4, right?
No, I think it was last week. Was it not?
No. So there's footage where he got hit pretty hard and then fell backwards in week 4. And ever since that, his completion percentage before he got hit in week 5 was 30%, and he was just not doing Josh Allen things. So the theory is that kind of like Tua in 2022,
Yeah, where
he had
one and
he
then
had a
the other.
concussion that slipped through the cracks, and then immediately had another concussion.
Yep.
This is just speculation, but he did hit his head pretty hard on the ground in week 4. Had a 30% completion percentage in week 5, and then got hit again. So hopefully he's still good, but just something to keep an eye on.
I mean, and let me be clear. Josh Allen is the bane of my existence. He is just, he mollywops the Dolphins every chance he gets. He's always been a very classy player, and I would never wish for an injury on any player. Certainly even not even a division rival, but especially not one who is as good of a sport, generally speaking, as Josh Allen is off the field.
Just look at that smile.
But shut up. But if Josh
Beautiful,
Allen does
beautiful
have
teeth.
concussion issues that come out because of this, I'm not saying
He's already
anything's
cleared protocol.
I mean,
little questionable from the league, but
that's what I'm saying. If he's had questionable concussions the last 2 weeks, you're setting yourself up for trouble here, especially the more that comes out and is reported about it. If for some reason Allen goes out, then Brad, even though he's getting consistent scoring elsewhere, is in a pickle because he doesn't have quarterback depth. His backup is Gardner Minshew.
Who's benched. So
Correct.
there is another starting quarterback who was, pretty good a few years ago on waivers currently that he could pick up.
Who would that be?
He's been on a couple teams so far this year. Waiting for that breakout, after his last big contract, but still hasn't happened. But you never know.
Okay. Well, last thing I'll say about this matchup is just Windows' team was thoroughly disappointing across the board. I have been saying for a while, I'm not a fan of Windows' team. I just don't. I thought Darnold was due for regression. Jordan Mason always had a ticking clock.
Joe Flacco, though.
Okay. That has long-term staying power.
I mean, objectively, it does.
Well, I understand, Joe Flacco is a serviceable backup. Not even serviceable. A very good backup quarterback in the NFL.
He is a man among boys.
Look, you can praise Joe Flacco all you want. My point is Anthony Richardson's the starter. My point is this is a stopgap measure at best for Window. And there are concerns for Window's team beyond that. One of the biggest is Tank Dell, I believe, is now on IR. And ETN may have lost the starting job to Tank. To another Tank. Right?
Yeah.
So tanks are Window is between one tank being injured, another tank taking his starter's job. Window might start tanking pretty soon if this keeps up. Do you like that?
I mean, he's 3-2. Yeah,
that was poetry. No, and so I have some real concerns about Window's staying power beyond this week. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like Tank Dell's not on IR. Let's look.
No,
this
it's
up.
Nico Collins.
Oh, it was Collins. Well, take back. This is why you can't let me on this podcast because I make mistakes. If Nico Collins on IR, then the Tank Dell is going to benefit from that. So
Should
take back what I said, but the point still stands about ETN potentially losing a starting job on a team that his one running back. He's got Derrick Henry. He's got Kenneth Walker.
All right, let's play a game. Would you rather be 3-2 and have Windows' team, or 1-4 and have Jerry's team? Who do you think is more likely to make the playoffs?
Window.
Okay.
It's because all things being equal, the 2 wins and the points. Let me see where Window is in points really quick, just to make sure I'm not off base. Window's 5th in points. He's got Jerry by about 100 points right now, a little over, almost 90 points right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I would rather have Window's team, but I do think they're both on the probably on the.
I'd rather be in Windows' position right now.
Yeah, but I do think Windows I think here's the difference. I think Windows a bubble playoff team. Like if he gets in the playoffs, it's gonna be like the 5, like the 5 seed maybe, or even the 4 seed. I think Jerry is on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. I think he's gonna end up in the Sacco playoffs. I just think he's gonna be in too big of a hole in 2 more weeks. Scott also agrees he'd rather be Window.
Yeah, I was just.
It's an interesting hypo. I like how we're doing hypos in this episode. We should call this the hypo episode.
Hypos.
All right. So let's get to. We don't have any trades this week, thankfully. Just waivers. So let me pull up our handy dandy waiver report, so we can see.
I think there was some action. There was
a solid amount of action.
Tuesday night.
I was on waivers last night, kind of fine tuning and did get, I think, one or two guys.
It was like 11:30, and I was like, "Oh shit! I forgot to do 4 leagues worth of waivers."
Without further ado, here's your waiver report. Oh my goodness, it's long, it's strong. Starting with, yeah, that's it. So let me make sure there's nothing else. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so starting with the big bid, it was, and this shows you that Windows okay. He got Tank. He didn't mention this in the
He put
chat.
a lot.
But he fired off. Let me see how much money he has left. He's got 394 left. He basically fired half his stack on, or a little less than half his stack at the time on Tank.
He's got to go for the tanks, man.
Yep. Well, and to be fair, Tank Bigsby was by far the most bid on player in terms of overall money. You threw a $250 bid on him. I threw $227 on him. Scotty threw 12. But Window pays the big money. I also edged out Window on and you on Jalen Tolbert. Zach wanted him for free. That wasn't happening. But you and Window bid 111 and 114 respectively. I bid 131 and sniped him. And then next player to be added for value was, I fired another little bullet for Juju, who's on bye this week, but he had a big week. Got rid of Trey Benson because I don't think he's even the backup in Arizona. I think it's probably Amari DiMercado. After that, Bo Nix, James and Scotty targeted. James got the win with $50. And then I would have had Tyler Lockett if I had the roster room. Didn't. So Window tried to get him. Didn't have room, I guess, from what I can tell. You added the Texans defense by dropping Cam Akers, who's going to be a backup again. Window says in the chat, you didn't snipe me because I sniped you first. It's not how that works, Window. Unless you only had one roster spot to add. But, anywho. And then you had some defenses that you tried to get for free.
Well, they were just...
But you the only one you spent money on was the Texans defense. Who do they play this week? Do you know? We'll see the matchup.
Someone bad. Denver, maybe.
We'll find out. All right. So let's go to our predictions.
New England
this week. New England.
Drake May.
Okay. There you go.
Drake May's.
Drake May's gonna put up 50.
Probably. But it looks good on paper for me.
It does look good on paper. So, going to our first matchup, Brad decided not to set his lineup at all.
What else is new?
The projection is completely worthless. This is a battle of 4-1s. Let me just do some quick replacements. If he puts
14
Pollard in, add 14. That's 94.5, and add
Bucky for another 9.
103.5 or 103.6.
Then he needs a receiver.
And he's gonna need
10 for Ridley.
Nico. Yep. So 1. What did I say? 103. So like 113. He's still in a significant projection hole.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of check marks going down there.
This is the most check marks I think I've ever seen.
You're the commissioner. Just set people's lineups for them for the podcast.
Absolutely not. If you don't set your lineup, I'm not doing it for you.
I mean, yeah, not having Justin Jefferson, not having Achane, Nico Collins going on IR is the wide receiver 1 right now. Is he the
Yeah.
wide receiver 1 in fantasy too?
Yeah.
No, he's wide receiver 2. Yeah, it's not the best week for him as far as options.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you talk about Jaden Daniels as him. Lamar Jackson is QB1 right now, averaging 25 a week. And I've got him going against Jaden Daniels in what should be another offensive showdown for
I hope so,
Baltimore and Washington.
unless I play Denver.
You know, I just have a lot of top 10. I mean, Dak Prescott, Chuba Hubbard, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, James Conner, Lamar Jackson, and the Steelers defense are all top 10 at their positions.
Neat.
Yeah, like I've got
That was me last year.
Well, but here's the thing. I've got a good team. Brad does too, but unfortunately, Achan is out. The number 3 wide receiver is out. The number 2 wide receiver is out. So I just think losing those players is going to be too much of a hurdle to overcome. I've got
You're not missing anyone you would start this week, so
Nope.
yeah, I think you take this one home.
Yep. Moving on to your matchup.
Yay.
Now you look good on paper. You are projected as a 12-point favorite, and there are no holes in either lineup from what it seems. There are some questions. James Cook and Anthony Richardson are questionable for him. Joe Mixon questionable for you, as is Evan Ingram.
Yeah,
I feel like this is going to be tighter than the projection says. I think this is actually quite close.
I'm gonna take Scotty. He has outscored me week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5. So I'm gonna take Scotty.
Man, this is close. I'm going to disagree. And the reason why is this. I think he has the slightly better team overall. And Jamar Chase looks like he's going to eat. I think one of the biggest question marks is going to be, and Scotty makes a good point. Scotty predicted you because he says Kyren's on bye, which is true. But I think one of the biggest dictating factors for this game is going to be, what does that Dallas-Detroit game look like? Is Detroit having success on the ground with Jahmyr Gibbs, or is Detroit having success in the air with Sun God?
I mean, they're a rushing team these days.
How does CeeDee Lamb fare with Aiden Hutchinson pass rushing Dak? Like I think that matchup is going to play one of the biggest roles in determining the winner of this one. I mentioned the Jaden Daniels, Lamar, what I see as a shootout. New England doesn't have a very good run defense. Miami was able to run the ball pretty effectively against them last week. I suspect that might continue, which bodes well for Mixon in his game back. I'm leaning you.
Hopefully he's back.
I also think I don't swear by Jerome Ford. George Pickens is wildly inconsistent, even against the Raiders. So I'm gonna go you.
Thanks, bud.
You
I'm
got it,
still
man.
going Scotty. Like I said,
It's just you look too good on paper, man.
history's shown Scott's teams outperform mine each and every week. So
Now,
Scotty.
moving to what should be a pretty easy matchup to call, but we have to do it anyway. Jerry is up against Zach. Jerry at 1-4 is right now projected as a 30-point underdog, 29.1 to be exact, underdog to Zach's 4-1 team. Is there any way that Jerry can beat the unstoppable juggernaut that is Zach Luckbox Hall?
I mean, yeah, there's a way. I don't think it'll happen, but there's a way. Crazier things have happened. I mean, yeah, it's a 30-point line, and it looks pretty bad. But I mean, T. Higgins just had a 25-point game. Garrett Wilson just had a 25-point game, 22-point game, and they're projected for 25 combined. So anything could happen there.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's Zach, and the reason one of the biggest reasons why is like, do you really? He has right now. And I'm not saying this is how it's going to end up, but he has 3 Jets starting. He has Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Braylon Allen.
Zach has 3 Eagles starting.
Yeah, I'd rather have the 3 Eagles than the 3 Jets, especially when the Jets just fired their head coach and called security.
Well, that's because they had so much confidence in their offensive coordinator that they felt they didn't need a head coach.
Yeah, clearly. Because the problem was the defensive-minded head coach Robert Saleh, even though their defense is like a top 5 or top 10 unit. Like, it makes zero sense, the Jets. But I digress. I just think even if he's got 3 bench players he can put in. Yeah, he could put in Trevor Lawrence for Aaron Rodgers. It solves one of the Jet problems. But his only other bench options this week right now are Mike Williams and Xavier Legette. Everyone else is either injured or on bye, or both.
I mean, this is his bye week hell, even if his players weren't injured.
Right. So I mean, and he doesn't have another running back. He doesn't have any other running. I'm surprised he didn't put in more of a. I don't know if he doesn't have the money left, but I'm surprised he didn't throw everything at the tank to get Tank. Because like he's starting Braylon Allen in a matchup that's going to determine whether he goes to 1-5. Like, I get you're between a rock and a hard place, but you're not going to survive to see your team come back. It's going to be too little, too late. And I don't like saying this because it's his birthday. I want to root for him, especially against Zach of all people.
I hope he gets a birthday win.
Me too, man. But
I hope he gets a birthday win.
But if you're asking me who I predict,
I would bet on Zach.
Yeah, like how much money? Like all of it. Like ship it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So.
Can I drop my 401k on this?
Right. All right.
I mean, he squeaked out. He squeaked out that one win, and he came close to another. So you can discount it, but he has some players that can go off.
True.
Kyle Pitts looks better. Jameson Williams can go off. T. Higgins can go off. Garrett Wilson can go off. Zach Moss is certainly capable.
Actually, I will go back to a recap for just one thing. I just want to point out he did have where is it? He did have one of his best weeks at 130 this past week. So like it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility. It's just that he's in bye week hell. So going to what is our 4th prediction. Alex trying to make it a streak, build some momentum against James, who just got his very fortunate win against me.
He's got the Robinson boys back in the starting lineup, so that's a start.
So he does have the Robinson and Robinson LLP starting. He is, in terms of bye weeks, the only player that's on bye is Travis Kelce, which obviously does affect James. He's going to be starting K. Dotton right now. So everything else looks pretty consistent. The projection favors Alex by 7.5. The average favors James by essentially 5.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like James's team. If Breece Hall can start being what he was drafted to be, I mean, he's had what? He started off with a few good weeks in the last 2 weeks, 2.8, 5.2. If he can go back to some production, especially against Buffalo, whose defense is kind of suspect these days. Stephon Diggs could get a boost with Nico Collins gone. Caleb Williams has been throwing the ball, so DJ Moore should start benefiting from that. I think this is going to be probably the most competitive matchup this week, if I had to guess.
Makes sense.
Uh, I like this matchup. I don't want to pick who's going to win, but I think I'm going to go Alex on this one. Brian Robinson um, is a little banged up with his knee, so it's hard to tell how much he's going to go. Bijan should have a game against Carolina. Should have a game, but it, the usage is just a big question mark there. So I think Alex is a little bit more upside and consistency for his matchup. So I'm going to take Alex.
One interesting thing about this one, right? And I realized this by looking at James' roster that he's starting this week. And maybe it's just because he's starting K-Dot and it added one more thing. But I'm looking at his team and starting to say, like, oh, he's got some players who are playing in the same matchups. And I'm like, wow.
It does.
Like, so normally, and this is one of my rules of thumb, I tend to really try to diversify. I understand we all like stacks. We all love it when a quarterback throws a pass to our running back or wide receiver and we get that sweet 10 points. But I generally, as a rule of thumb, diversify my fantasy teams where I have a bunch of different offenses. Because if a team has a bad game and I have 3 players on that team, I'm up the creek without a paddle.
I mean, he likes the Southeast teams, Atlanta,
Yeah,
Tampa Bay,
like
Jacksonville.
he's got Jared Goff and David Montgomery for Detroit. He's got Bijan and Darnell Mooney from Atlanta, and Tyler Algier for that matter, who's on his bench. And he's got Mike Evans, K. Dotton, and Baker Mayfield all starting from Tampa Bay. It's a lot. It's a lot of NFC South.
Yep. Fun fact, all of James's matchups are traveling.
They're on the road.
They're all on the road. The odds of that seem a little low, but they are all on the road. I don't know if that changes anything, but it is a fun little fact.
I mean, I think from what I recall, like NFL teams, and this makes sense, tend to perform a little bit worse on the road, especially on the offensive side of the ball because of the noise, the crowd noise, right? You're seeing an uptick in illegal formations, illegal motions, illegal shifts. False starts in general will occur more often for visiting teams because of the crowd noise. Not that is going to affect this matchup. I'm just saying as a general rule. I do agree with you. This is going to be a very close matchup. I am going to go Alex. I think Alex's team is starting to build a little momentum, and I think he's.
Yep.
Alex. I don't think that James is. I think one of those teams in the NFC South is going to have a bad week, and that will make the difference. So.
What was my trade with Alex? Did I make a trade with Alex this year?
I can look back. Hang on. Dead air.
I don't think we did. I think we tried to.
I'm trying
Passed
to look
it up. Yeah, we didn't do it. We passed it up. We can move on to the next.
You sure?
Matchup. Yeah.
You sure?
Traded with Scotty. I traded with Window.
You
I didn't have it.
You have traded with. Which one are you? What's your good on paper? GOP. You traded with Window
And Scotty.
And that was it.
That was it. So far.
I don't think Alex. He's made a trade with Window. All right.
Window's making the trades.
We've had 4 trades though so far this year. Again, we've had some high level of trading for our season.
Yeah, we have the toilet bowl for the next matchup.
This is the toilet bowl?
This is the toilet bowl.
Why?
These are objectively the 2 worst teams this week.
Scotty, and Window and McMillan?
Yeah. I mean, I guess Jerry's close in projection, but I mean, Pittman is projected for a 0 right now because he's hurt, so that does hurt McMillan's projection. But he doesn't have much to slot in. I mean, Juwan Jennings,
Yeah.
Neighbors is still in concussion protocol. He might not play.
Jason's updated his roster, so hold on. Let me see if I can
Refresh.
Well, I'm gonna go to the browser. All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's a little higher. I'll take McMillan on this one.
All right, hold on. Let me pull it up.
Window is super flexing ETN. If that, you don't even have to look at it. He
All
spent all
right.
that FAAB on Tank Bigsby to have him be on the bench.
All right, here we go.
You really showed us, Window.
So projection favors McMillan by what? 16?
Yes.
Average favors Window by 12.
Yeah. Oh, we also have a Joe Flacco projected for 0. It's all sorts of messed up. But he doesn't have.
Well, is Joe Flacco even starting?
He has 2 quarterbacks on bye, no other quarterbacks on the roster. And Joe Flacco's not starting. So he's gonna.
He's gonna presumably add. Let's see who's available.
Is he? Is he just gonna eat an L this week and just
Deshaun Watson, Will Levis, Drake May. Projections ranging from 11 to 13. So let's factor that into the projection. 119 to 121 is Windows range. So probably somewhere around, actually 120 to 122 with decimals. So probably, I mean, the projection is very close.
You're gonna have to make a trade,
He's not going to make a trade.
free up a roster slot.
I would be surprised. I mean, until I see what Window does, you're right. I gotta go with McMillan, and I don't think McMillan's lineup is measurably better, but he does get DeAndre Swift back. Marvin Harrison's due for a little regression. I think one of the biggest questions is if Neighbors plays.
I mean, he missed last week, so 2 weeks, missing 2 weeks for.
It was a bad concussion, though.
Yeah, he's young. He'll be fine. He can walk it off.
Didn't we just talk about this with Josh Allen?
Yeah, but you know they rushed the quarterbacks back.
I'm gonna predict McMillan, but I think this is a trap game for him, and I think this is his season. If
Yeah, his players know it's easy.
If McMillan, yeah, right. If McMillan doesn't win this week, he is unequivocally going to end up in the Sacco playoffs. Like this is, if he's gonna make a stand, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, he needs this one bad.
Bad.
This is his opportunity.
One shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted. All right. So that's it. Just one more thing before we wrap up. Thank you to the 4 people who are watching in the chat. And thank you to Window, Scotty, McMillan, and Sam for commenting in it. Sam, I just saw your one comment with regard to the Pats. We have a Jason McMillan says "Mom Spaghetti."
That's the whole song.
Mom Spaghetti, Mom Spaghetti. So we have a league event being scheduled in Frederick. I'm going to be hosting it right the weekend after my birthday on the Sunday, the 27th of October. So come one, come all to a wonderful afternoon of football.
Will you have Red Zone?
Yeah, I'll have Red Zone. I'll have multiple TVs set up. We'll do it right. So just wanted to mark that on your calendars. The 27th of October, Sunday the 27th. We're gonna do a little.
Will Alex be making drunken slap bets?
I mean, I hope. Actually, I hope not. That boy needs to rest his face.
You have to keep going. You gotta
We
lean
have
into it.
Also, we have a lot of. I need to at one point. Maybe I'll do it tonight. At one point, I'm going to go on the Facebook group and post all the slap bets.
You should cover them in the next pod, just kind of the status of all the slap bets,
Not a bad idea, Jason.
and kind of see where they're leaning. Who should get their face ready, and who should start practicing some swings.
Scotty, Emily, or I'm sorry, Window, Emily asked if there will be other ladies there at the league event. TBD, Window. I'm not 100% sure yet.
I like how he's gonna ask this time instead of last time.
Well, I have to ask my wife and see what her plans are, because I think that's going to play a big role. So, TBD on plus ones. I will let you know in the Facebook group for sure. All right, I think that's it. So, McMillan says no to plus ones. You can bring some. No, you can't bring Vanner. She'll eat my dog. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your matchups. We'll see you next week. We'll see you on the 27th. And one last time, happy birthday to Jerry, despite missing the podcast on his birthday. I guess it's a good enough reason.
I hope he's out having fun.
We hope you're having a great time, buddy. We hope you win this week because you desperately need it.
I just want Zach to lose.
It's a win-win if Jerry can pull it off.
Someone needs to bring him down to earth.
All right, guys. See you next week.